Training Like a Tool Part 2, let's go. So, today I've got my experience with the Bulgarian method. So, we're going to start with what that is, and on screen right now is the video Unbelievable Bulgarians from, I don't know how you say that, Hivda49 on YouTube. I will link it down below. The Bulgarian system is, of course, the infamous system from Ivan Abadjiev that produced absolute monsters like on the screen currently, Zlatan Vanev. If you've not seen this, obviously go and watch it, as well as people like Botev, Naim Suleimanoglu, not sure if that's how you pronounce it, and many, many more. They're just one of the most dominant teams in history, probably of any sport, but in weightlifting they are by far the most dominant team. So this system has sort of permeated its way through strength training culture, and the meaning has kind of been lost or bastardized along the way. But ultimately, back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, that is when Ivan Abadjiev was using it with the Bulgarian national weightlifting team, it basically meant hyper-specialization, heavy weights as often as possible. So we can actually have a look at what that program was exactly like from this excellent interview here with Stefan Botev, one of the greatest Bulgarian weightlifters, by Weightlifting House. Now, he describes their training as 3 times a day. They were pretty much just doing snatch, clean and jerk, back squat and front squat, although I think they did do the occasional power variations, and everything was taken to maximum. Not even 90%, just maximum, all the time, every time. Now, modern day Bulgarians don't train like that, and neither did I, and this video on the screen has come up at a perfect time because the program I followed is loosely something that Alex Krichev wrote. Now, Alex Krichev was actually in these videos here when Ivan Abadjiev went to America to coach Hussein Palaku. Now, Alex Krichev was Abadjiev's sort of Project Zero, the first person on which he tried what we now know as the Bulgarian system. So, let's have a look at what that was. The template that I followed here was written by Alex Krichev, as I said. This is supposedly what he followed at some point in his career, and is probably the closest we can get to an actual program without just maxing out the snatch, clean and jerk and squat 3 times a day. So, what was that? Well, as you can see on the screen, I was doing double sessions 4 times a week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, which made for 10 sessions a week total. Every single session was taken to at least 90% for at least 1 single on every single exercise, with the exception of Thursday, on which I just warmed up. You can see that squats featured heavily, and even here they're in every single session, but later in the program they're in sometimes twice in each session. So exercises were limited to the snatch, the clean and jerk, front squat, jerk from rack, power clean, back squat, and power snatch. So pretty specialized, but not quite as specialized as what supposedly the Bulgarians were doing in the 70s and 80s. And now I'm going to give you an example of probably the most brutal session I did. So here is week 8, and I want you to look at Monday. So the AM session, I built up in the front squat to 95% for 2 singles. I then snatched up to 95% for, don't worry, just 1 single. Clean and jerked up to 90% for, again, only 1 single. And then front squatted up to 90% for 2 doubles. Then I went home, questioned my life's decisions, ate a lot of food, lay on the floor a lot, came back in the afternoon, front squatted up to 90% for 2 singles, 100% on the snatch, 100% on the clean and jerk, and 95% on the back squat. Now, when it said 100%, the aim was to hit your max, but realistically it was just anything over 95%, and sometimes taking 5 to 10 attempts at it and then just calling it quits. Now, by this point in the program, 90% was a pretty casual lift. You had to be trying, but you kind of always knew you were going to hit it. But every kilo over that, 95%, 96%, got very ropey. Technique was not good, and didn't really make for a fun time. So as you saw there, the program was absolutely ruthless, and you're probably wondering if I coped and if I made any progress at all. So The first thing I should probably say is there were maybe 1 to 2 sessions almost every week, or at least after week 2 or 3, that I just couldn't complete. In the beginning, it wasn't too challenging. You were mostly just going up to 90% for maybe one single. But by sort of week 5, 6, 7, 8, the accumulated fatigue meant that my speed had gone out the window. And yeah, I just couldn't make all of the lifts. You also saw that by week 8, I was squatting 4 times a day sometimes. So the fatigue was high. Now, that said, I did hit some PBs. I went from a 110 snatch to a 115 snatch, a 130 clean and jerk to a 135 clean and jerk, and I also went from a 145 front squat to a 155 front squat. Now, I did all of these things in the first 5 weeks, so I think really what we can take away from that is that I effectively just peaked from all of the volume and technique work that I'd done in the training block before this. And after that, I was just so fatigued I couldn't hit bigger weights. Now, I did stick the program out for 2.5 months, more as a challenge than anything else, and I can say with confidence, it just probably isn't the way to go. I imagine that if you took an absolute shed load of supplements, that might help a bit, but there are just so many better, less exhausting ways to make PRs. Now, if, like me, you just want a challenge and you're aware that it's not the best way to go, fuck it. It's kind of fun for a bit, but just don't expect it to work like magic, and be prepared to have to take 4 to 6 months to recover physically and psychologically after this training block. And yes, you did hear that right. After finishing my 2.5-month stint, I took 1 to 2 weeks very easy and then was going to start building back in slowly. It took me 6 months to get back into reasonable weightlifting shape again. I was just psychologically fried. After I finally decided to pull the plug, I just didn't have it in me. My body was so sore, and it took quite a while for all of that to dissipate. Now, if you want access to the spreadsheet that I used, the videos that I've used, so Botev's interview or the Unbelievable Bulgarians, I will link it all down below. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this, feel free to put a like on it.